G'day everyone, welcome to the food room. Today we're going to cook a fried rice, and this is a great dish for the students. It's got your carbs, it's got your meat, it's got your vegetables, so this is a really nice handy one for people to have. So we're going to start with our food, but we're going to start with our hygiene. You've got to make sure your hair is up and you've got your apron on. You've been over to the sink and you've washed your hands for that 20-second length of time, or singing happy birthday. I'm going to make a start and jump straight into it. So the first thing we're going to do is, to get your class started, you want to grab your rice. So I'm going to get 2/3 of a cup of rice, and my measure is, I'm just going to put it in a bowl. Put that back, and I'm going to take that over to my pot, which I've turned on. I'm going to put my rice straight into the pot. The pot's actually been on and it's boiling. If you're putting your rice into cold water, your rice will get a bit gluggy, so that's not really what you want to do. Now, while that's on, you need to make sure that someone is supervising that and keeping an eye on it, but then we can start to prepare the rest of our ingredients. I'm going to go through the ingredients that we need for our recipe today. We've got a tablespoon of oil, and that is for our egg that we'll whisk up and fry. We've got a half an onion over on the side there. We've also got 2 rashers of bacon, so 125 grams of bacon. We've put our rice on already. You can see how pretty that looks. We've also got a 1/4 cup of corn. We've got a 1/4 cup of peas. We've got a 1/4 of a red capsicum, and about 1/2 cup of bean shoots. And we'll put in some spring onions and some soy sauce as well for our ingredients. One of the things you could think of is, when you have students working on a bench, I'm actually going to stand here, but while my rice is on, I don't need to be reaching over that to cook my egg and my bacon and so forth. So what I would suggest you do is you get the students to put the rice that's on the further element, and then bring their fry pan a little bit closer. So it's just, it's a little bit safer for everyone. Okay, so our rice is boiling away nicely. Do you want to come in and have a look, Michael? Look how nice that is. Okay, step back. And we have given that a bit of a stir so it doesn't clump up too much. Now we're going to start with our cooking our egg. Now it does say a tablespoon of oil, but there's sometimes where you need to measure and there's sometimes where you don't. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of oil. My fry pan's been on. Oh, I can hear that already. Oh, too much. Never mind. I'll put that out of the way. I'm going to grab my egg. I'm going to whisk up my egg. Make a bit of an omelette. Keep an eye on everything. Pour that in. There we go. Let that go. Now while that's happening, it's like waiting for paint to dry. We don't wait for paint to dry, whether in the art room or the food room. So I'm going to cut up some bits and pieces so we can keep going with our cooking. Now I'm going to just take the ends off my spring onion. Now making sure you just take the roots off the spring onion, because that white is very much a part of that onion. While I'm cutting up, film person, can you just come and have a look at our egg? So our egg is becoming a bit of an omelette. Now there's 2 things you can do. One is you can flip that over and you can chop that on the whiteboard, which is what I will do. And then the other is you can sort of scramble it up and stir it up in the fry pan if you wish. So come back over. You can see I've got my spring onions done. Instead of cutting 1 spring onion up at a time, I cut it in 3, and then I put that all together on my green board. I'm going to do my meat onto my whiteboard, making sure my finger's out of the way. This is a lovely one for all the processes that can be done for the food. This is a great one. I would encourage students, especially the boys, if they want to impress the girlies one day, and the girls can impress the boys. Okay, that's all cut up. I'm going to go back over to my fry pan. I'm going to take that out. and put that straight over on the whiteboard, and then I'll cut that up. I'm going to take my whiteboard, drop my bacon in. Do you see how there's lots happening? Give that a bit of a stir. While that's happening, I'm going to cut up my onion. Now your onion has that bit of a skin element around it, so you do need to remind students to take that off. And I've got my scrap container out on the bench. Now the secret to peeling an onion so that you don't cry, there's no secret. So mine is speed, but you also need to making sure you're keeping your fingers out of the way. As soon as you get those fumes away from your eyes, the better you'll feel. That can go in with the bacon. Give that a bit of a stir. Well, that's coming along nicely. Now we'll let that go for another minute or two, and I'm going to get my bits and pieces, my corn ready. Now I actually like spring onions. What are these? Bean shoots. So bean shoots, they come up. Not that we should eat in the food room while we're cooking, but I really like them. Some people don't. But I do. I can just put them, I can just eat them as a snack. Excuse me, talking about my mouth is full. Oh, and the other one I can cut up is the capsicum. Okay, so I'm going to change the way I do that because that was a bit roly-poly and I don't want that to happen. Oh, I was supposed to do a quarter, but I've done a half, never mind. Okay, I'm just going to give my bacon a little bit more of a stir. I'm going to leave that, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my rice. So I'll be back and show you how to do that. So our rice has been on for a few minutes, and I'm going to come over and have a look into that. Come over and have a look. So it's bubbling away, and it's not stuck together. And I'm going to take a little bit. Now, if you take a little bit of that and you eat it, it's hot. It's going to burn your tongue. So you do need to wait a moment for it to to cool down. That'll be right. Now, when you taste or eat your rice, if it's hard or if it gets stuck in your teeth, it's not ready and it needs to stay on for longer. Got to make sure you don't run out of water because that'll make a big mess and you have to scrub your pot. So my rice is actually done, lucky. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rice over to the sink. Now you need to make sure when you're walking around the room with a hot pot with water, you are have a gloved space and that you're all nice and safe. And my bacon and my onions still going nicely. So I'm going to take my pot over to the sink. I'm going to turn my gas off. Now I'm going to take a strainer and I'm going to pour that in. I've got a little bit more in my fry pan, in my pot.
I don't. You do. It's a personal preference. I don't. It's mine.
I was just asking my food assistant whether or not to put water over the top of my rice. So if I was at home, I tend to get hot water and wash the starches off, but you don't have to do that. So we're going to take this back over to the stove. So we've got lots of things ready to go. So our bacon and onion is cooking nicely. It's not overdone because that's going to stay in there a little bit more. I'm going to take our capsicum. I'm going to put in our peas. I'm going to put in our, oh, that was the corn. This would be the peas. And then I'm going to come with it. I'm going to chop up my egg. Now that's already cooked, so you don't need to cook it any further, but we are going to put all of those pieces in together. Going back over to the fry pan. We'll put a few spring onions in there, and I'm going to put the shoots in there. The bean shoots won't take very long to cook. So you come and have a look in that before we... Look how awesome that is. And then we're going to put our rice in. Tell you what, that's a good feed for a class to have. Healthy, nutritious, filling. Very fortunate we are. Okay, put that aside, give it a bit of a stir. Just going to check that temperature. It's going well. And I will just get some soy sauce and pour a little bit in now just to mix that through. But then you can also add some more once you take it off the heat.